In today's video, we're going to learn a solo ukulele arrangement of the Scarborough Fair. This is a really fun piece to play that gives you that really nice Renaissance flair, and it's a perfect tune for any more beginner player looking to introduce some chord melody into what they're working on, and for a more advanced player to get really efficient fingering. You'll notice through this tutorial, it's really important to make sure you're playing the right parts with the right fingers as we sort of walk through it. Now, if you'd like to download the tab that's shown on screen, check out the link down below to my Patreon page. Every month we do a vote on a different lesson, and something Renaissance won this month, so this is what we came up with. Let's go ahead and dive into the beginning here. Let's look at the first stanza. It should look something like this. I'm going to bring the camera down, and it should sound something like this. Now, to play this, there's a lot of sort of unintuitive fingerings to help make the next part easier. This is going to be a recurring theme with this arrangement. So we're going to start with this G minor. Take your index finger, place it here on the 2nd fret of the C string, and your middle finger, place it here on the 3rd fret of the E string. We're going to pluck these two strings together. Now, as far as the technique going here, I've got a video on finger picking. If you haven't worked with finger picking much before, please check that out for good technique. You can use either 3-finger picking or 4-finger picking, which is just going to be the thumb on the G, index here on the C, middle here on the E, and ring here on the A, sort of stationing 1 finger per string, that being the 4-finger that you'll see me using mostly. But if you use 3-finger where the thumb sort of goes between the different strings, that's okay too. Whatever's comfortable for you as you're working on this tune. We're going to pluck our C and E together to start. Then we're going to play the 2 on the C. One quick note, notice how there's no lyric with that. It's R and then this 2 on the C. This is a filler note, so play it just a little softer than the ones that have words. We're then going to play 3 on the E string, and that finishes that first measure. And here's what's cool. We're going to take this, and you see the index finger here. You might notice that I've been kind of collapsing it to a bar. What I want you to do is I want you to try to slide these 2 fingers up so that the index moves up to 5 and the middle finger here on 6. And then take this index finger and pull the hand back a bit to sort of pinch it on the A string to get a bar. So that now you're playing the 5th fret on the A with that index finger. And then take this ring finger and stack it here on the 7th fret of the C string. So what you have is 0, 7 with the ring, 6 with the middle, and 5 with the index, courtesy of the bar. And you're going to pluck those 3 strings. And that gives us our next G minor chord here. If this is too challenging because the bar is giving you a lot of trouble, it's okay to move your index finger down to just pluck that A string on the 5th fret. See how it's just using the fingertip there? But I like using this bar just for the efficiency of movement. But both are correct. You're going to be finding what's more efficient versus effective, and you want to find the balance of both. More on that a little bit later. But after we pluck the C, E, and A, we're going to then play the 8th fret, taking your pinky and adding it here to the 8th fret of the E string, leaving the other fingers all in place. Play that. And then the 5 on the A, which should already be there with the index, whether in bar or a single finger. And so that measure now, you see we just add fingers as we're going. We go to the last measure here, the 3rd measure of the stanza. We're going to play all open, so we just remove our fingers, pluck the C, E, and A. We're going to pluck the open C string, then 1 on the A using the index finger here, then 2 on the E and 0 on the A. So take your middle finger, add it to 2 on the E string like this, take your index and take it off, pluck the E and A together. And that finishes this line. So let's go ahead and hear what this first part sounds like with the words, "Are you going to the Scarborough?" And that should be something like this. Going right on now, let's look at measures 4, 5, and 6, which should sound and look something like this. Now, a little tricky here, but it starts off with the same sort of stuff. We're going to be at our G minor, which we played at the very beginning of the song, index finger here on the 2nd fret of the C string, middle finger here on the 3rd fret of the E. We're going to pluck our C and E together, then the C string twice for filler. Notice there are no words there. Then we're going to take this and we're going to slide it up to 5 again, so that the index is here on the 5th fret of the C string, middle finger here on the 6th fret of the E string. We're going to pluck our C and E together. And then we need this index finger, just like it did before, to hook down and create a bar. In this particular case, what helps immensely is instead of thinking of pushing, think of pulling. Try to pull the hand back a little bit, trying to keep this middle finger still very articulate with the angle, but instead of just pushing that index finger in, we pull and kind of pinch that back, and that can give us a really nice tone on that 5th fret of the A string. Then we're going to play the 8th fret on the A string, hold this, add the pinky finger here. See how it just builds up for our parsley. And then when we go to sage, we're going to take our pinky and middle fingers off, leave the index barred, and slide it up to fret 10. So it's over the 10th fret of the C, the E, and the A strings all together. I'm going to pluck those 3 strings. Then I'm going to pluck the open G. And I think this is one of the hardest parts of the song because you'll see it goes to 8, and it's kind of unintuitive how we go to 8. We need our index to come off, and we need to bring our pinky to the 8th fret of the A string. So we kind of have to jump down like this. The reason for this is because it's setting up what comes next, but it's really important just to get comfortable with that index bar to the pinky on 8. I promise it'll make sense in a moment. So if we just listen to measures 4, 5, and 6 and take a look at them, should be something like this. And if we go on to 7, 8, 9, and 10, it should look something like this. So a little bit longer here with the 4 measures taking place. We're going to start with this C chord. So remember, we played the 8 with the pinky, right, on the A string. Now we're going to use kind of a 1 finger per fret. So our index finger is going to be here on the 5th fret of the A string. And we're going to pluck our G, C, and A strings all together. Creates this really cool C sound. And then we're going to use our ring finger and play 7 on the A. And then we're going to slide down index to the 3rd fret on the A. And then for the next measure here on 8, we move up to a different G minor, one that we did at the 2nd measure of the song. Slide the index up to 5. Add the middle finger here to 6 on the E string, and the ring finger here to 7 on the C string. Pluck those 3 strings, the C, E, and A. Then open on the G. And this gets a little crazy. Hold this shape, take the ring finger off, but you see how the index and middle fingers are here on 6 and 5? I'm going to slide them up so that they're on 11 with the middle finger on the E string and 10 with the index on the A. This is another tricky part of the song, and I'm going to then play just the 10 on the A. Now it's really important that both of these fingers move up from their previous position, because after I pluck this 10, I'm then going to pluck the G, E, and A strings, which you'll notice are here at 11 and 10 already. So we're setting that up by that slide movement. So if we look at the word time with the G minor, and then re-mem is going to go slide up, re-mem. And then we play the 11 on the E, open on the G for a burr. Then we're going to take these 2 fingers and we're going to slide them down. The index finger is going to go all the way to 1, middle finger comes off. Then we're going to play this G minor, which is the ring finger added here on the 3rd fret of the E string, and the middle finger added here to the 2nd fret of the C string. We're going to pluck our C, E, and A together. So you see it's the same sort of movements moving down. And then we're going to play open on the G. And then we're going to play 3 on the A, which you might be tempted to use your pinky here because it's, not being used. And that's not a bad way to do it, but what I want you to do is actually just take your index and slide it up to 3 on the A and play that. And that's just to set up the next measure, which we'll see in just a moment. So measures 7, 8, 9, and 10 should sound something like this when I play them all through. Now, here's what's cool, is when you look at the next part, it looks and sounds like this. And you'll notice that the beginning of this is going to start with that 6 on the E and the 5 on the A. Well, that's why we played the 3 on the A with the index, is to start moving in that direction so that I can continue moving in that direction. Index finger here on the 5th fret of the A, middle finger here on the 7th fret of the E, pluck those 2 together. That's for 1, and then for the word who, we're going to slide the index down to 3, and then take the middle finger off, or you can even leave it on, just add the ring finger to 5 on the E string and pluck those two together. And then we're going to take this and move it down 2 more frets, so it's at 3 on the E and 1 on the A. Kind of neat, right? These are called thirds. It's a really nice sound. And then I think this is the other hardest part of the song here on measure 12, this E flat chord for the word there. The way we're going to play this is you're going to take your middle finger here and you're going to put it up to the 3rd fret on the C string. And you're going to pluck your G, C, and E together. And then you're going to do a pull off to 1 on the E. Now, if you haven't worked on pull offs before, I do have a video that talks about that you can check out below or linked here. But the gist of it is we want to hold these fingers, the middle finger here on the 3rd fret of the C string, and the index here on the 1st fret of the E string, for the ring finger to pull off to. So when you play this, you'll notice I immediately add the index as soon as I play it, so that it's ready for that pull off. And when I do the pull off, I try really hard to not hit the A string. It's quite a challenging pull off. And if you're really struggling with it, it's okay to just articulate the note twice. The importance though is having that index finger ready to go at that moment. Then we're going to pluck the G and C strings, you'll notice on 3 of the C, so we're already there. And then from here, we're going to play the G minor chord. Now, we're going to play a little bit differently just because of where we're at. Our middle finger is already here on 2 of the C. We're going to slide it down 1 fret to, it was on 3 of the C. We're going to slide it down to 2 on the C. And then add the ring finger here to the 3rd fret of the E string and pluck those 2 strings together. Then we're going to play open on the G. Then 5 on the A. Now, you want to use your pinky finger here, but holding all of this with the pinky can be a huge stretch for some people. Totally fine if these fingers come off. That's why we played the open G to kind of give some sound and filler as we go to that 5 on the A. So measures 11, 12, and 13, which I think are pretty challenging, should sound something like this. Going on to the 14th, 15th, and 16th measures, they should sound something like this. Which is kind of our ending phrase to this tune. What we're going to start with here is we're going to be considering, we just played the pinky here on 5 from the last part, so now as we go to the 3, I like to jump my ring finger here, and I'm going to pluck the C, E, and A strings together, then the open on the G. Then we're going to play 1 on the A. I like to use my middle finger here. And there's a reason for that. And that is as you go to the next measure here on 15, this little F chord, we're going to be playing open on the C, 1 on the E, and open on the A. This finger here is on the A string, allowing my index finger to come over to the E while I take it off. Instead of jumping the finger up and down, I'm going to be using the middle finger so that the index can kind of come over, play that, and then leave the strings open. I'm going to play the open C, 1 on the E, and open A. I'm going to play open on the G for the word love. Quick note, if you're playing a low G up to this point, it's worked really well for the most part, but those open Gs can sometimes be a little bit boomy. You can substitute 3 on the E string anytime and try that to see if you like the sound better with your low G. If you're playing an ukulele that sounds like mine, don't even worry about it. But after we play the open G and the 1 on the E, which is already there, we're then going to reapply our G minor, and we're going to play this 2 on the C string, 3 on the E, and we're going to play the C and E together at that moment. So that's the same way we played it on measure 13 earlier, but then we're going to pluck 2 on the C twice. So measures 14, 15, and 16 should sound something like this. Now, if you look at the sheet music here and you're looking at a copy of the tab, you'll notice, hey, there's a repeat marker. We go back to the beginning of the song and play it all the way through if you'd like to add a little bit more length. It's a song that's meant to be repeated. In the opening video, though, I didn't do the repeat just so that you can hear the melody all the way through in a little bit more of a concise way. And so let's go ahead and move on now to measure 17, and 17, 18, 19, and 20 should sound something like this for the end of the song. So So the way we play this is actually pretty straightforward. It starts with that same G minor to the 5, which we actually did on measure 13. So that's the middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the C, ring here on the 3rd fret of the E, pluck those, and then the open G. Stretch the pinky out to 5, taking the fingers off if you need to. Then we go to our C chord, ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string, pluck the C, E, and A, open on the G, 1 on the A with the middle finger. This should look very familiar because it's the same as measure 14. Then we go to our F with the index finger here on the 1st fret of the E string, pluck those 3, open on the G, 1 on the E. You'll notice there's a little symbol here written that's called a fermata. That means we want to hold this for a little bit longer to set up the very last chord, this beautiful G minor, one of my favorite chords on the ukulele. Take your index finger, bar it across the 10th fret on the C, the E, and the A strings. We played this earlier in the song, but this time we're going to take our thumb on our playing hand and we're going to strum through all 4 strings to end this beautiful haunting melody. So 17 through the end sounds something like this. And there you have it. There is the Scarborough Fair. I'm going to bring the camera back up to me. This was a really fun arrangement to work out, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, it's a really, really great resource to work on very efficient fingering. If you just try to play this and kind of guess where your fingers should go, you can probably pull it off, but you'll notice your arrangement will sound kind of choppy at times. I worked really hard to get these fingerings just right to make sure that they blend efficiency and effectiveness in the best way. And what that means is efficiency is, how easily you can manipulate between things, right? How much movement it takes. The more efficient, the less movement you're making. And that's always something we strive for. But along with that, we're also looking for effectiveness. It's not just how easy it is to move between things, it's how good does it sound. And really great players are always battling between effectiveness and efficiency, where sometimes we do something that's not very efficient, might be really hard to do, but it's very effective with the playing. And then other times we do things that are almost too efficient and the sound suffers, right? So I tried really hard to make this arrangement that perfect blend. It just means, though, that it requires extra practice compared to some other arrangements to make sure that you get every fingering just right off the bat. It starts with one of those, right? When you play it this way with the bar there, that's kind of awkward and weird, but man, does it make it more efficient, which can lead to a more effective performance. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. Also, feel free to check out my Patreon page. We've got some brand new awesome things, including something I'm calling Curated Pathways that are just coming out, which is trying to bring the private lesson experience to people more at scale. And so eventually, all of these different types of players should be well represented in the content I'm really excited about. So check it out if you haven't already. All of that is linked down below. And as always, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like to help those algorithms, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.